Okay, so I will be challenging what she just said about the disenfranchisement of these felons. And first off, I'm going to start off by defining what a felon is. According to legalmatch.com, under traditional common law, felonies are called true crimes. So these felons are guilty of committing crimes such as homicide, rape, arson, burglary, robbery, escaping from prison, or assisting in any other felony. And to me, the disenfranchisement of these felons is not a threat. In fact, the felons themselves, they pose a threat to the society. According to the Sentencing Project, incarceration is particularly ineffective at reducing certain kinds of crimes, and particularly youth crimes, many of which are committed in groups, drug crimes. When people get locked up for these offenses, they are easily replaced on the streets by others seeking an income or struggling with addiction. So these felons, they are not mentally stable. They have, obviously they make decisions that a normal civilian wouldn't make. And according to the Sentencing Project again, it says that crime rates have declined substantially since the early 1990s. But studies suggest that the rising imprisonment has not played a major role in this trend. So again, incarceration of these felons fail to minimize their choices. So sending them to jail is not going to change who they are. And the disenfranchisement is a necessary punishment for those who fail to follow and respect the law. Some might think that it is unconstitutional to remove their voting rights. However, the 14th Amendment, which was enacted in 1868, according to the article Border Disenfranchisement, Power, Threat, Hypotheses, and Modern Democracy, it says that the 14th Amendment was enacted in 1868 as a measure to equally protect basic rights for American citizens, revocable only insofar as an individual is guilty of participating in acts of rebellion. And the 15th Amendment was also ratified in 1870 and asserted that citizens' suffrage rights cannot be restricted on the basis of race. So this says that the 14th Amendment allows us to take away their rights, their voting rights, as long as they have committed a crime and it's not on the base. And the 15th Amendment states that we can do that also, but if on a based on their criminal acts, not their race. According to an article titled "What Rights Do Convicted Felons Lose?" It says that 38% of people in state or federal prisons were black, 35% were white, and 21% were Hispanic in 2011. So there's not much of a difference between 38% and 35%. That's not a big difference. So you can't say that this is a racial issue. You can't say that the disenfranchisement is creates racial inequalities. According to Jason L. Riley, editorial board member of the Wall Street Journal, he states that blacks are disproportionately affected by felon disenfranchisement laws because a disproportionate number of blacks are felons. The problem is black criminality, non-racist laws. White felons face the same voting restrictions which date not to America's post-Civil War, as Mr. Holder suggests in his remarks, but to medieval Europe by way of ancient Greece and Rome. So this goes way back to before the Declaration of Independence in Europe. So you can't say that the disenfranchisement creates racial inequalities or separates the voting rights, because just as there are more men in jail than women, and you can't say that the laws are sexist. According to the article, felons have lost their right to vote. It says, today's laws may have a disproportionate impact on some racial groups, but that doesn't make the laws racist. just as the fact that more crimes are committed by men doesn't make the criminal law sexist. Moving on to my second point, these felons can't be trusted. There are certain minimum objective standards of trustworthiness, loyalty, and responsibility in a society. And those who have committed serious crimes against their fellow citizens don't meet these standards. So children aren't allowed to vote because they're not responsible enough, they don't have the right mentality, as well as non-citizens because they are not part of the community, or they don't have the right. But the mentally incompetent can't vote either, so why should felons who actually commit crimes and harm societies be able to vote? So the affirmative says that ex-felons deserve a second chance. However, what makes them so sure that felons aren't going to go back to their old ways? According to crimeinamerica.net, an estimated two-thirds of 405,000 prisoners released in 30 states in 2005 were arrested for a new crime within 3 years of release from prison, and 3/4 were arrested within 5 years. So this shows how the imprisonment of these felons fails to change their behaviors, and they go back to their old ways and commit crimes. However, there is that 25% of the felons who do change their behavior because of the incarceration, and they are felons, they're criminals. You still can't, just because they behave good after or during their after their sentences, that doesn't mean that they're gonna continue to you can't trust them, basically. And when presented a measure of compassion and justice, it is almost hypocritical to say that automatic restoration of their voting rights is not in the best interest of the felons and the general public. And the Constitution